There are places on Earth so lethal that the moment you arrive, the clock starts ticking. Not in hours, not in minutes, in seconds. Boiling rivers, invisible gas traps, lava seas, and radioactive tombs. These aren't scenes in a video game, they're real. And in these places, even breathing the air could be the last thing you ever do. Here are 15 places where you wouldn't last a minute, and once you see them, you'd never trust the planet the same way again. Lake Nyos in Cameroon, the lake that kills without warning. In the highlands of northwestern Cameroon lies a lake so calm, so mirror smooth it looks like a peaceful retreat from the surrounding jungle. Tourists are drawn to it. Locals have farmed the shores for generations. But this body of water is hiding a silent, invisible force, one that in less than a minute wiped out over 1,700 people and 3,500 livestock without a single warning shot, explosion, or fire. They simply collapsed where they stood, as if the world around them had just turned off. This is Lake Nyos. It's one of the most deceptively dangerous places on the planet, and a natural time bomb that is still ticking. Now, what makes Lake Nyos unique and deadly is what lies beneath it. This crater lake sits on the flank of an inactive volcano within the Cameroon Volcanic Line, a chain of volcanoes stretching from the Gulf of Guinea inland towards Central Africa. Beneath the lake bed lies a pocket of magma, and that magma is constantly leaking carbon dioxide into the water above it. Most lakes release gases into the atmosphere slowly through circulation and mixing. But Lake Nyos is deep, steep-sided, and thermally stratified. That means that the water doesn't mix easily. Instead, CO2 seeps in and gets trapped under pressure in the colder, deeper layers of the lake, forming an invisible reservoir of compressed gas. For years, this underground pocket grew larger, silent, hidden, lethal. Then on the night of August 21st, 1986, something triggered the release. No one knows exactly what it was. Some believe it was a landslide that may have disrupted the lake's delicate layering. Others suspect it was a small volcanic tremor or even a temperature change. But whatever caused it, it allowed the CO2-rich water at the bottom of the lake to suddenly rise. As it did, the pressure dropped, and the dissolved gas came out of solution instantly, like shaking a bottle of soda and opening the cap. Only instead of fizz, the lake exploded in a violent, invisible eruption of gas. An estimated 1.2 cubic kilometers of carbon dioxide was released in a single burst. A massive cloud of CO2, heavier than air, surged out of the lake basin. It rolled down into the nearby valleys at speeds up to 100 kilometers an hour. Since CO2 is colorless and odorless, no one saw it coming. The gas hugged the ground, displacing the oxygen as it moved. In minutes, it reached the villages of Nyos, Cha, Kam, and several others. People fell where they stood, suffocating before they had a chance to realize anything was wrong. Those sleeping never woke up. Those who ran died running. The few survivors, few and scattered, described the aftermath, something like from a nightmare. Livestock were still lying in fields. Entire families collapsed at their dinner tables. No sign of trauma, no injuries, just death by asphyxiation, caused by a silent flood of gas. By the time the morning came, more than 1,746 people were dead, along with thousands of animals. Rescue workers who arrived initially thought they were seeing the effects of a chemical weapon. Bodies lay undisturbed in perfect stillness, many still inside their homes, others outside holding tools or reaching towards open doors. The aftermath of Lake Nyos changed the way geologists understood volcanic lakes. It revealed a new kind of planetary hazard, one that couldn't be predicted with seismic detectors or observed with the satellite imagery. This wasn't lava or ash or fire. This was chemistry weaponized by nature, and it had the potential to strike again. Worse, the danger wasn't gone. In fact, it's building again. After the '86 disaster, scientists began monitoring the gas levels. They discovered that CO2 continued to accumulate in the lower layers. The lake was refilling with death. To prevent another disaster, engineers installed a degassing system, a large vertical pipe with an outlet at the surface. Using a carefully controlled siphon, the system slowly vents CO2-rich water from the bottom of the lake, releasing gas in a steady, manageable plume. Other lakes in Africa pose similar risks. Lake Kivu on the border between Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo is 1,500 times larger than Lake Nyos and contains even more dissolved gas. The implications are staggering. Imagine living next to a serene lake, the air is crisp, the birds are chirping, but deep below the surface a massive bubble of invisible gas is pressing upwards, waiting for the wrong shift in temperature, pressure, or geology. If it escapes, it won't be dramatic, it won't be loud, it will be silent and absolute. And the worst part? There's going to be no warning. No sirens, no flames, no rushing water, just a moment when oxygen disappears. People still live near the lake. Life has returned, crops are planted, roads are rebuilt, but the shadow of 1986 lingers. Older generations remember the night the air turned to poison, and scientists watch the monitors, hoping that the degassing system holds. Because if it fails, even for a moment, this lake could kill again. And this time, there might be no one left to tell the story. Number 14. The Dalal Hydrothermal Field, the most poisonous place on the planet. At first glance, the Dalal Hydrothermal Field in Ethiopia looks just like a fantasy, an alien landscape that's bursting with neon colors, steaming pools, and formations that seem to defy natural order. The ground is painted in swirls of electric green, blood red, and radioactive yellow. Sulfur ridges rise like coral, while mineral chimneys belch clouds of toxic gas into the air. It's hypnotic, stunning, and absolutely deadly. You're looking at one of the most hostile environments on the planet. And in the Dalal Depression of northern Ethiopia, beauty and death are separated by nothing but a breath of air. Now, the Dalal Field sits within the Danak Hill Depression. That's one of the lowest, hottest, and driest places on the planet. It lies at the intersection of three tectonic plates, and the geology here is nothing short of violent. Rain is almost non-existent. Temperatures frequently surpass 45 degrees Celsius, that's 113 Fahrenheit, and surface evaporation creates extreme concentrations of minerals and acids. What's left behind is not just dangerous, it's lethal to life itself. Dalal is not simply inhospitable, it's an antibiotic to biology. In 2019, a team of microbiologists published a study confirming that even microbial life, those extremophiles that survive in the harshest places, cannot live in these hydrothermal pools. The water is hyperacidic with pH levels below zero, saturated with iron, chlorine, and magnesium. Temperatures exceed 100 Celsius in many of the pools, and there's no oxygen, no stability, and no tolerance. But the danger isn't just the water itself. The air is poisonous. Geysers vent plumes of hydrogen sulfide, sulfur dioxide, and hydrochloric acid. A single breath can blister your lungs. Tourists have collapsed here. Even trained scientists have to wear gas masks and full-body protective suits. It's one of the few locations on Earth where standing still for 60 seconds unprotected could kill you. Not from heat, not from predators, but from invisible airborne chemicals. But the very visuals that make it a wonder also signal its threat. That glowing green, chloride-saturated acid. The yellow mounds, crystallized sulfur. The blood-red pools, brine, boiling with dissolved iron. One misstep in Dalal doesn't just mean getting wet, it means getting dissolved. Even trained geologists and NASA planetary scientists who study Dalal as an analog for alien environments limit their time here. They plan visits with military precision. In, out, no delays. They photograph, sample, collect data, and leave. No one lingers in Dalal, not even machines. Drones often malfunction from the heat, metal corrodes in the air, and electronic equipment shorts out. The irony is that Dalal, for all its hostility, may be one of the best places on Earth to study what life can't do. For astrobiologists, it defines the boundary between survivable and sterile. It's the only known place on Earth where life not only doesn't exist, but may be chemically impossible. That makes it a model for what the surface of early Venus might have looked like, or what future exoplanet probes might encounter. But for the rest of us, Dalal remains a place where a human would last less than a minute without protection. Breathe the air, your lungs burn. Step into a pool, and your legs vanish. Stay in the sun too long, and heat stroke shuts your body down. Every element of the environment here is hostile. The air, the water, the ground, the temperature, even the light feels harsh, bouncing off crystalline surfaces with blinding glare. People do visit though, usually under strict permits and with guides who understand the terrain. But even they know this isn't a place where you stop to admire the scenery. Number 13, the Kilauea Lava Lake in Hawaii. Within Hawaii's Kilauea volcano sits a vast, glowing pool of molten rock, the Kilauea Lava Lake. It bubbles, churns, and sloshes like a cauldron built for the gods. Its surface pulses with orange light, sometimes rising like liquid glass, other times cracking into floating plates that drift and collide like tectonic drift on fast forward. This is one of the only persistent active lava lakes on the planet, and easily one of the most terrifying. Visitors to Hawaii Volcanoes National Park can view the lake from observation points safely built around the rim, sometimes seeing the glow from miles away at night. But get even a few steps too close and you won't last a minute. The lake isn't just hot, it's deadly on contact. The surface temperature of this lava is around 1,200 degrees Celsius. That's 2,200 degrees Fahrenheit. That's twice the temperature needed to incinerate human flesh and bone. If you were to fall into the lake, not that you'd even reach the surface, you would likely die from the radiant heat before your body even hit the lava. The heat radiating from the edge alone is enough to melt footwear, boil water bottles, and set clothing on fire. People have been killed by standing too close to volcanic vents without realizing it, not by falling in, but by their lungs being scorched by superheated air in seconds. There are no fences close to the lava lake. No physical barrier could stop the force of an eruption if it decided to explode. Observation decks are positioned far back, and with good reason. In 1924, a steam-driven explosion launched rocks weighing several tons over a mile from the crater, destroying infrastructure and killing a man standing hundreds of feet away. And Kilauea isn't a dormant volcano. It is one of the most active, erupting nearly continuously for decades at a time. Photos of the lava lake, they're mesmerizing. Deep crimson glow, curling vapor, and river of liquid rock swirling like paint on fire. It looks peaceful from a distance, but up close, it's one of the most extreme environments a human body could endure. Even with heat-resistant gear, no one can approach its edge safely. A minute of exposure into its gas plume, radiant heat, or an unexpected ground collapse would be more than enough to end your life. Tourists often ask if it's possible to touch lava. The answer's simple. You cannot and live. The idea of surviving even briefly near a lava lake is a fantasy. The energy it releases constantly is equivalent to tens of thousands of space heaters focused into a single point. Step into that arena unprotected and you wouldn't even have time to scream. From above, infrared sensors can see it clearly even when the clouds obscure the crater. Satellites track the thermal signature daily, monitoring any changes in temperature, size, and gas emissions. But no photo, even from orbit, captures the immediacy of danger. It looks like a red dot, yeah. From the ground, it's a roaring sea of fire that would kill you before your shadow even hits the edge. Entering the Yavari uninvited is almost guaranteed to be fatal. Over 20 isolated groups are known to live in the region, moving in family bands, some using stone tools, others hunting with bows and spears. They have no immunity to any modern diseases. A simple cough or minor flu brought in by a visitor could devastate entire communities. But their vulnerability isn't what makes them dangerous to you, it's their determination. These tribes view outsiders as existential threats, and they're right to. Over the past century, loggers, drug traffickers, miners, and settlers have massacred their populations, burned their villages, and poisoned their rivers. They have every reason to defend themselves, and they do. Survivors of attempted contact have reported being watched, followed, or attacked with arrows from the unseen perches in the canopy. Some have had boats riddled with spears, others simply vanished. The Brazilian government's own indigenous protection agency has strict no-contact policies. When aid workers or researchers have to enter this region, they do so with air support, massive contingents of rangers, and often in armored boats. Even then, it's risky. In 2022, British journalist Dom Phillips and Brazilian activist Bruno Pereira were murdered while investigating illegal fishing and logging in the Yavari region. Their deaths sent a chilling message. This is not just protected land, it's defended land. But even if you weren't attacked, the forest itself would just finish the job. The humidity sits at 100%. Biting insects, venomous snakes, flesh-eating parasites, and camouflaged predators lurk at every turn. Malaria, yellow fever, and leptospirosis are endemic here. Water has to be boiled, food must be carried, and shelter has to be built fresh each night. One wrong step and you'll find yourself bleeding, lost, or worse, watched. The people who live in the Yavari Valley don't need saving. They need distance. Their survival depends on being left alone, and yours does too. But beneath the snow-covered streets and endless gray buildings is a second Norilsk, a maze of tunnels, shafts, and chambers that's carved through permafrost and ore. This underground world isn't just cold, it's hostile, toxic, and collapsing. And if you find yourself down there without any warning, you wouldn't last a minute. Toxic gases are everywhere. Hydrogen sulfide, methane, heavy metal vapors, and worse, many are odorless. Some pockets contain zero oxygen, just voids of unbreathable air waiting for one wrong step. The humidity, too, from slow permafrost melt combines with metal dust to create a fine gray mist that clings to your clothing and your skin. Without a rebreather, oxygen tank, and full hazmat gear, you'd collapse from asphyxiation or chemical poisoning in less than 60 seconds. But the greatest threat here is structural. Many areas haven't been maintained in decades. Entire corridors have collapsed and others are waiting to. In some sections, the temperature's swings have caused methane explosions. Ice layers melt and refreeze that push steel supports until they buckle. Ceiling slabs collapse without sound. If you don't die from the gas exposure, you're likely to be crushed or buried alive. In 2020, a massive diesel fuel spill here from collapsed storage tanks flooded parts of the underground with toxic sludge. It was one of the worst environmental disasters in Russian history. The cleanup has been slow, and parts of the tunnel system remain sealed, too dangerous to re-enter. Today, Norilsk Underground is rarely photographed. Government restrictions make access nearly impossible, and the risks are too great for most explorers. But for those of you who had ventured down there without permission, the warnings are unanimous. If your air supply fails, if your lamp dies, or if your map is wrong, you ain't getting out. From above, it looks like an industrial scar that was etched into the Arctic tundra. But the tunnels beneath are invisible, of course. Satellites can track pollution levels and heat emissions, but they can't see the maze of shafts and chambers underneath. They can't see the gas, they can't see the cracks, they can't see how close someone might be to their last breath. From above, it's just another frozen city. From below, it's a labyrinth of instant death.